Hi, my name is Bruke Alemayew, and I'm in New York City.
Hey, my name is Artem. I'm from Ukraine. Let's talk about Loos.
Yes, let's talk about Adolf Loos. Um,
Yeah,
Loos is a late 19th century influential European architect, best known for his minimalist style and his opposition to ornamentation. He foreshadowed the foundations of the entire modernist movement.
definitely. His minimalistic attitudes are reflected in the works of Le Corbusier, Mies van der Rohe, and many other modernists and architects. It also led to a fundamental shift in the way architects perceived ornamentation.
Of many of the houses that he designed, Villa Moissi was one that he designed in Venice, Italy's Mediterranean climate. He designed it for actor Alexander Moissi and his wife. The predominant element of the Villa Moissi was light and sea in his composition of the house. When looking into pushing an analysis, since Villa Moissi was never built, our primary sources were the original drafted plans and sections that gave us a glimpse of Loos's vision.
So the Moissi house by Adolf Loos incorporates the cubical facade with its perfectly arranged windows and walls. However, from the inside, Loos arranged the floors at half-story intervals in relation to each other. Loos utilized small apertures dislocated between each floor to allow light and air to freely circulate through the passages and around the interior of the building, thus dispersing natural elements such as light and air. In our analysis, we unpack how Loos uses spatiality and lightness inside the densely packed building through the use of ventilation and light.
So when you look at some of the references that we found in the original documents, the floor plan actually does show, like even with the short section, it shows how those shifted floor planes create this hierarchy. Like I think Artem, we've saw some things about the basement being dedicated to the workers and the homeowners primarily live at the top. So you can see that shift in the number of ground floors like A, B, and C, D, all being shown in this shift in floors. With that in mind, we sort of just jump straight into analyzing a specific element, which was light and ventilation, and these were our 3 points.
So we want to explore the terrace floor vault, the bathroom air vent, and the basement window light as our three key points to explore both light and natural ventilation. By splitting the house in two parts, we can actually explore the ventilation seen in one of the openings of the facade. You can see the opening near two large windows on the east elevation of the house, which actually isn't a window. It doesn't have glass in it, and its pure function is to let the air flow inside of the house, and thus introduce the concept of passive ventilation in the house. So what we can see here is the airflow traveling inside the bathroom over the one of the bedrooms and actually dispersing through the hallways in the bathroom. If you slice the house, you can see other airflows going in and entering and exiting from the first floor, thus creating the airflow throughout the house. But you cannot talk about ventilation on its own without using the scene of light in the Mediterranean.
Yes.
Light for Loos dictated the design language of the house and of the facade, especially the sunset of Venice and why the terrace was situated on the eastern facade, on the eastern side of the roof, and why even his floor plans, he had the main living room on the top floor instead of the bottom room, which you would naturally see in other houses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think light is a critical element. It does dictate the room temperature of a house. And in this case, Adolf Loos is really showing that with his control of the window apertures, he's able to allow certain areas to be lit with light and have exposure. And other ways, it's also shadowing and creating cool spaces that create that ventilation and allow for.
Like, it's also important to distinguish between the light in terms of the winter climate and the summer climate. On winter, the sun is actually lower, and on summer, the light is actually higher. The angle is more steep. Therefore, Loos uses the arrangement of windows in the facade to differentiate. During winter, the house is more illuminated, thus kind of making it more warm on the inside, while in the summer, he achieves shade through the use of those steep angles and having small apertures on some of the facades. And you can see that the terrace is dislocated in the southeastern corner in front of the lagoon to take the rising sun. To the south, where the rays are warmer, the openings have minimal dimensions. They are wider on the eastern and western sides in order to follow the solar cycle of the sunset.
Yeah, absolutely. And another really interesting thing that we noticed is the view. From an interior perspective, you can see what it would look like looking outside into the terrace, and you notice that there's this little floor light vault. This is probably the most ingenious aspect that Adolf Loos introduces in the design. This floor vault allows for light to really bleed into the lower level corridor, allowing light to enter into that space and illuminate it more. And it's incredible to see how he's using that floor vault to naturally light an interior space. Another one is also on the first floor, seeing how the big windows allow for natural light to enter into semi-secluded interior space in the lower level.
We can see here we use the animation of sun to approximate how different windows will allow light in during every time of the day. And you can see that like during the morning, the big windows are more lit up by the sun because of the lower angle, thus allowing the maximum light in the day. And while in the afternoon, for example, 12 o'clock, the sun's arrangement in the sky, creating shading in the big spaces and big living rooms, creating this like cooler interior, while the smaller apertures in the basement allow for less light for the working area. Maybe if it's a cellar, there is a storage there. Architect didn't want to actually heat the cellar that much, but create a more cool environment. So we can see the smaller slits and smaller apertures to allow less light, but at the same time, because it's located on actually the bottom of the facade, it's actually angled a little bit, so the more light can travel in on the steeper angle than the bigger windows where the light rays would actually come there directly.
Yeah, I think this demonstrates a very specific way of how he's composing the windows for different times of the day. So I think, like, with all things considered, we've talked about, you know, the passive air ventilation and light, and his ingenious use of the floor vaults for allowing light to peek through the centralized hidden corridors. We can sort of see how he's using techniques. You know, it's a very complicated house with the shifted floor planes, but he's using specific techniques that are, I would say, ahead of its time. You know, when you think about efficiency for a house, especially with its location being in a warm climate, you really do have to, you know, rely on passive ventilation when it's a time period where ACs didn't exist. You know, it's really important, and
Yeah.
I think he was onto something in a very sustainable manner and efficient manner as well.
It's amazing that his design language is dictated through the site and through the climate where he's situated. Physicality of the house is dictated through of the study of the light and in the climate and study of the airflow, allowing the air to travel throughout the house. If it was on the same levels, the air will be trapped on each floor.
Yeah, very site specific. And it's honestly, it's really sad that it wasn't constructed. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You know, he spent so much time thinking about all these intricate details, but it was never constructed. But I think
due to structural problems.
Yeah, due to structural problems, which is really sad. But it's been really interesting, you know, diving deep into investigating, you know, the plans and seeing some of the models and really intricately breaking down the design has really shown us a lot. Well, thank you so much for analyzing this with me. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you guys for watching this video.
Thank you so much.